Hello and welcome to Quick Tip 38, and in this quick tip we're going to be looking at two different programs. The first one is calculating the slope using the standard linear regression program, but what we're going to be doing is doing this on RadarScreen. As you can see, we've got a 5-minute E-mini here and also down here 5-minute IBM, and the first column is the value calculated just using the close of this bar fed into the program. I'll show you the program in a minute, but what we're also doing is we're calculating the 5-minute, the 60-minute and the daily using the values that come from a price series provider. So let's just have a look at this program first, show you how it works. So quick tip 38, I'm going to make these available to Gold Pass members. So what I've done is the standard value, just using the close from the RadarScreen, is calculating value 10 and plotting in the first position, plot 1. And then what I've said is that if this is not a chart, in other words RadarScreen, then we're going to be using the PSP, and we're putting the PSP, you see the standard way of calling this function is linear regression slope. Then we have a series, which could be a price like close or high or low, etc. But it can also be a PSP close, a price series provider close, or another value from price series provider. In this case, we're using close. And then the second value is the length. So we're doing the length the same for all of them, but we're using 3 different PSPs. And let me just show you one of them. In fact, let's look at number 3 so you can just see how this thing's set up. And if we go to properties, you'll see that we're using time zone local load true. The symbol, what I've done is typed in symbol, so that takes the same value as the chart or as the row on the RadarScreen. Then as far as the interval is concerned, we're going to put in the interval we want. So for the daily, we're going to put in daily. For the others, we'd have put in minute and then put in value for the minute. Look at that in a second. And then the other thing that we need to watch for is the range. Now, because we're calculating this for a period of 14, I've put in a number of bars of 15 there, just to make sure that we've got enough. So if we were to look at, for example, PSP2, you'll see that, just going to properties, that setting's basically the same, typed in symbol there, but for the interval, we've set this to minutes and we've put in the interval span of 60, and then again the range, we put in an appropriate number of bars. Now, incidentally, if you wanted to create the PSP, very simple, go to the toolbox and then double click on the price series provider, and you just go to make sure it's selected, then go to properties. You can call it the name that you want to call it within reason. So we could say, for example, PSP4, and then fill in the rest of the information like I've just demonstrated, but we're not going to be using that, so I'm just going to delete that here. So that is the first program. Now you'll notice, in fact, we're comparing this column should be the same as this column, but you'll notice that because the PSP and the price are not synchronized, those values don't necessarily occur at the same time. But if you look at the values for a period of time, you'll see that eventually the price series provider catches up with the price value. And then the values again calculated from the PSP for the 60-minute and the daily and so forth. So just to verify that, we would compare this value with this value, and again there's a synchronization issue, but those values are supposed to be the same, and it's just a timing issue. And then daily and daily, you can see again that sometimes it takes a little bit of time for the PSP to catch up with the price. And then I've done the same just for the sake of argument using IBM. Now that is the first part of this tutorial. The second part is we might wish to use the same symbol and the same interval, but we want to calculate the PSP using a number of different lengths. And that is super simple. Just created another program to do that. And the first way that we can do that is just simply calculating the lin/reg slope, putting in a different value for the length. So you can see, put in a length of 14, 28, and 56, those different lengths. We could also, if we wanted to, do this using the price series provider. And similarly, the lengths would be the same, but what the only thing we need to make sure is that the PSP has a sufficient range so that it will be able to cope with all those different. And since the maximum length is 56, I just made it number of bars 60. And if we go to the chart, you'll see that again, there's some synchronization issues, but this column and this column are the same, this column and this column are the same, and this column and this column. So that's quick tip 38, and I will make these little simple programs available for download by Gold Pass members. So one thing I've omitted to mention, which is actually quite significant, is in both programs, before doing the linear reg slope calculation, what I've done is checked the count of the PSP. So for example, in all of these cases, I want to make sure that the length is greater than 14. So I said if PSP1 count is greater than 14, then do the calculation. And that's the same for all those three calculations. In the second program, that's quick tip 38-2, because we're doing some greater lengths. What I've said for the first one, if the count is greater than 14, then calculate linear reg slope 14. If it's greater than 28, then you can do the program can do the 28 length calculation. And then finally, if it's greater than 56, we can do the calculation linear reg slope PSP.close 56. That's quite important. Anyway, hopefully you'll find this useful. Thank you.